Welcome to the 48 intro video here, 48-second intro video. Here you see the church lake Kyrksjön. I think you can walk on this ice. I'm not going to do that because, well, I am not interested in, dying because it might be risky. But I'm not sure how great these intro videos are. Maybe I should have worked harder with it, but I think it's a beautiful kind of day here that was worth reporting about in 48 seconds while you are waiting for the pseudo live that is starting at 48 seconds usually. Tomorrow I will create a better video. Hello the English speakers and welcome to some Siberian crab apple. I have just reported Twitter International ULC, the company belonging to X Corp in Ireland. So I reported them to the police. The policeman thought that this was fraudulent behavior, at least, even though it might be a bug, but I'm still defrauded. So bug or human fraud, it shouldn't matter. They should pay up and make it right for me, I think. But we'll talk about some other more brutal things, or at least also brutal stuff. Nothing as brutal as a police report straight to Ireland and Elon Musk's company. But let's start by taking a big, deep crab apple breath. So I read another article from a Midwestern doctor. So he has been writing a lot about DMSO, and here he got an interview. Still, I didn't find any good places how to use which doses and stuff. You have to read the actual studies. I hope he will come up with a more simple DMSO for dumb people. But you can buy this DMSO and it will make your body, the circulation simply works better. So if you have some wound, if you have some chronic problem somewhere, and you can either paste on DMSO or you can actually drink it, and it's not toxic. You can smell bad and you can get irritated skin if you use the skin to apply it, but it's pretty much impossible to overdose, and even though it is deadly in high doses. The problem is actually that people use too high dosage. Instead of trying some low doses, they don't listen. And all the American Midwestern doctor can do to his patients is to tell them, and they don't listen. And there is also a problem with counterfeit DMSO, which he finds strange, because really pure DMSO is pretty cheap. So I looked here in Sweden and you can just buy it for $20 on Amazon. So I don't know how sure you can be that that is the real thing just because it says so. But yeah, good to have a reminder though, DMSO. And it helps other medications to get to the right place. Maybe it will help with nails, for example, that gets infected by mold. I said wrong things yesterday, which gives me another reason to mention St. Edward's Church in Stow on the Wold, where you have these ewes that are standing next to the gate, and it looks totally amazing. And another reason to talk about it for no reason at all, except that it's awesome. Mainstream media, they do not care about white people and they do not care about Asian people, especially not men. You have noted that, I guess. Elon Musk has noted it too. Elon Musk knows why, but he still asks why. You know why. It has to do with Marxism. The Jews are racist, they hate us and they want to kill us all. And they can't help writing that in their media. That's why. And Naomi Seibt, the Alternative für Deutschland supporting German young lady. She says that Goebbels would be proud of all these lies from mainstream media. Well, should I teach you about Goebbels? The National Socialists in Germany, they actually shut down this NGO censorship industry that they did have in the Weimar Republic before National Socialists took over. And Goebbels, he studied Jewish propaganda from Edward Bernays. So Edward Bernays wrote the book Crystallizing Public Opinions and the book Propaganda from 1928. So of course this Jewish propaganda master, he got scared when he realized that his enemies were actually reading his books. But I think that Goebbels was not the greatest propagandist. He was not as good as the Jews that he did study. And you can't beat Jewish propaganda with Jewish propaganda because they are better at it. So if you look at the old propaganda from the Second World War, it is aging well, but not Goebbels. I have tried to listen to him and it just sounds not very nice, unlike if you listen to Himmler or Hitler himself. They do make sense, even if you don't agree, while Goebbels are more talking about feelings and stuff like a Jew, basically. Here you see a Swiss stone pine that are very popular here in Ljusdal, despite that we are not in the Alps. But interesting that Edward Bernays was on the bookshelves of this Goebbels. Very wise, you know her. She's working now for Ellison, the son of Larry Ellison, and Ben Shapiro works for you know what, the Daily Wire, and Dan Senior. So they were all bragging about that they had used their Jewish ethnicity and their Jewish connections and networks to screw everyone else. Don't listen to media that is filled with people who exclude everyone else, basically. So it's not that they are networking to produce something, they are networking to keep others down and advance the interest of the community, is what they are telling all other Jews. Start conspiring more. We need to keep the Goyim hated by, for example, hating on Asian and Europeans. So this Zionist evil, the Zionist occupied government, and then you have people like Melanie Phillips. She said really horrible things on this Jewish leadership conference, and she talks about that they need more genocide to protect the Jews that are totally wrongly attacked, and Europeans are so evil. For example, in Hungary, when the communists took over, they genocided a lot of Christians. The Jews did. It was a Jewish-controlled secret service there, and the Holodomor was very Jewish, and the Bolsheviks very Jewish. And then you had the Morgenthau plan for Western Germany, and then the Mongols and the Soviets, they did horrible things in the East. Ethnical cleansing, for example, where some millions were dying there also. Maybe you can get it to 12 million Germans that were genocided after the war. Andrei Yermak, he is said to be the second most powerful Jew in Ukraine. So he's the chief of staff. So I guess he decides who will decide what, sort of. And he is, of course, a total criminal Jew. And Wall Street Journal protects him and thinks that there is nothing wrong with a criminal Jew, of course, because they protect them. Luckily, this Jewish war in Ukraine, on the other side, it's also filled with Jewish oligarchs that should like these sanctions of Russian oligarchs because they are Israeli oligarchs, so they don't have that much problem with sanctions as the other oligarchs in Russia. But not all of them are as lucky as Lucky Silverstein. That was very lucky on October the 11th. So Ihor Kolomoisky, he was the guy who had a TV network and he made Zelensky a TV president and then the real president of Ukraine, or as real as you can be a president of Ukraine. Here the road ended. Weird. So he is now under arrest, and he is, strangely enough, he is on the spy headquarters. So he's locked up at their secret service place and not in a prison or anything like that. So that's weird, but they are weird in Ukraine. But yeah, not all Jewish oligarchs in Ukraine and Russia are lucky enough to be able to escape to Israel, for example, that I talked about. And Kaganovich, like Kagan, he is married to, Victoria Nuland. But Kaganovich was the main architect behind Holodomor. And of course he was very Jewish, and the Communist Party in Ukraine was very Jewish, and the secret police in Soviet, NKVD, was very Jewish. Then they moved to Israel and continued genocide in other ways. So Ukraine has a Jewish problem, and it's very sad for Ukraine, of course. You cannot point that out, though, if you are in Moscow, like Che Bose. So he lives in Moscow generally, and he's an Irishman. But he does point out some things in that direction. You have this eagle with a swastika in its claws. So that you get arrested for showing that image in Germany. But Germany have no problem sending money to exactly the same symbol, but with a Ukrainian trident on it. Then it's totally okay. And Che Bose can't explain why all this Nazi thingy in Ukraine. It's because it's run by Jews. So these Jews that have Russian as their first language, but still they don't speak Russian. They speak Ukrainian badly because they pretend. And of course they aren't National Socialist. They pretend to be, so that you do not blame the Jews. Nice berries that are not crab apples, but something else. Someone who doesn't give a shit, though, even though he's in Russia and is probably breaking the law about talking against the Jews. That is Alexander Dugin. And Dugin, he had his daughter murdered by Ukrainian terrorists. And Dugin says that Rothschild is behind Soros, globalism, European Union and Israel, of course. If someone says that Rothschild is not behind Israel, they can just listen to Lord Jacob Rothschild himself. He is now dead, by the way, in case you missed that little happy news. But Dugin doesn't have to fear anything. He is an old angry man that doesn't give a shit. So that's good. He's like the leading Russian nationalist philosopher. Republicans between 18 and 29, they prefer Palestine over Israel. So 33% of them prefer Palestine and only 28% prefer Israel. So the Zionists are starting to get scared about that little fact. Jeffrey Sachs, the Jewish professor, he says that Israel is fascist, which it's of course not. It's neo-Bolshevik, genocidal state. But he also says, Sachs says, that it's lawless, murderous and genocidal. That is of course correct. But don't call it fascist. That's just wrong. And he thinks that Israel should be suspended from United Nations. Well, that's also not very helpful. But of course they should, and all diplomats from Israel should be expelled because they are all terrorists, more or less. So for our security they should not be allowed anywhere, and you should not have any base whatsoever in Israel. But of course that will not solve the problem. The problem with terrorists must be handled in the obvious way, and you can't negotiate with them at all. Rand Paul is also avoiding the real question. So the senator that pretend to be sort of libertarian, he says that Venezuela will fracture the Republican Party because if they start bombing there. Okay, and Israeli question then. Of course, that is the big problem. I do not think that the hardcore Zionists, they are not that many. There are many that are pro-Israel, but they can change their mind, except for, you know, all the AIPAC slaves that are in Congress. They need to be replaced, but I don't think that it will be a very fast civil war if all Zionists are kicked out from the Republican Party. They will lose 2 or 3% maybe at most. And they will gain a lot of Democrats and independents if they kick out the Zionists. Jackson Hickle, he is a communist, might be good to know, and you can get interesting reports from him and do not trust them in general when he talks to, for example, Maduro and in Yemen with the Houthis. So he has some sort of, I suspect him to be maybe some sort of controlled opposition. Maybe he doesn't know about it. That I always remind you about. But he's still interesting. But don't trust him. Now he says that there is breaking news. So Dalai Lama has been funded by CIA. Yeah, that was breaking 25 years ago. So no, that was not new. It's correct, however. Vietnam are testing a cancer vaccine from Russia. People are saying that's of course total bullshit. So this Pembrolizumab is a treatment, it's not a vaccine. So I don't know why anyone calls that a vaccine, but they are testing it out in Vietnam right now. French nuclear power, it's going well for it, and France can finally start to export some electricity. If you haven't heard about it, France has had a lot of problems with their nuclear power plants that have been under maintenance, and they have had even higher electricity prices than any other country in Europe. So that's weird and very bad. It's bad marketing for nuclear power in general to have this French problem. But now it's increased with 2%. 2% from last year, and that is enough to start to export a little bit more. So it's not super great news, but less problem for them. So I linked to an article that tried to make this a big thing. 2%. That's what China's energy output increases in 1 month, not 1 year. Matt Walsh is getting badly hit on X as usual, and he's criticizing Garbage Human. Garbage Human posts about garbage in human form, for example, juice. And Matt Walsh says that this person behind it, he has no right to talk about American politics because he lives in Australia. If you live in Australia, you are sort of part of the empire, and you are really dependent on what happens in USA, of course. So we who live in the periphery of the US empire, we have all the rights to meddle in US politics. We have to, for our own safety. So that was a bad argument. But Matt Walsh, he works for Ben Shapiro, and people point that out all the time. And Matt Walsh have no problems with Fishberger and people with similar Berg-Ovitz and the usual suspects. They can meddle in foreign politics that they should not write about, according to someone who works for Ben Shapiro. Dodge. So there is an account that Elon Musk posts often because the account makes ads for X. So this Dodge designer, he's from India, interestingly enough, but he and Elon Musk corrects what I said yesterday about Reuters and Dodge. Dodge still exists, and Reuters is full of shit, just like I said, but it's important to have it confirmed. The Boring Company, they are building tunnels for $10 million per mile. So that's really cheap, but interestingly enough, they think that they can get down that price 3 times, to only maybe down to $3 million per mile, which is as much as building a highway per mile. So we will see maybe even some tunnel here, so we don't have to have this very annoying crossroad with, this is the most annoying crossroad in Ljusdal, and they can't make it into a roundabout because they need to have at least one set of traffic signals to teach people how they work, basically. So that's the only reason that they haven't rebuilt this. But we will see more tunnels. Great news. And then I read about this strip that Douglas Adams does behind the paywall, but we were allowed to steal it now and then. It is called Robot Read News, and it's about robots reading stupid news. But this was very insulting for Swedes. They are doing something that is very anti-Baltic. Anti-Baltic is when you are racist against Swedes. That makes total sense, just like anti-Semitic. And he did wart libel. So if you didn't know that, warts are very beloved in Sweden. Not generally, but for example, we have this silver birch that you can see far away from here. Very noisy here, but the silver birch with this white bark, that's called vårtbjörk. Vårtbirch in Swedish. Why? I don't know. And we also call the nipples, they are called breastwort, because they look like that, and that makes total sense. So if you are talking bad things about warts, you are very much anti-Baltic. So don't do that. I saw an image of a bad Santa, and he looked like he will not deliver anything to anyone. But at least he can fill all the stockings or the socks. He can fill them with coal, because you can send a lot of coal to Great Britain, because they don't have anything to use it with. They don't have any coal power plants anymore. So they can deserve some coal at least. Good news there. And another good news is that Bowear is now stopped used in Sweden. The last one who used it, this is the thing you poison your cows with so that they burp less. But they encountered a lot of problems, and a lot of customers and the farmers themselves don't want this shit. And you know that it's a fraud, because it solves the burp problem that is not a problem at all. So you know that it's a scam, but good that it's going away. And someone with my name, Henrik Jönsson, is trying to make some strange anti-mainstream media, and he tried to be like Fox News. So no, it's not real opposition, and it will not tackle all the big lies of the climate, the Zionism, the war in Ukraine, or anything like that. It will only be anti-leftist garbage, is my prediction. I will, of course, have a look at it if it actually becomes a big thing, but I'm very suspicious, and I think it will be infiltrated by Jews. They love to do that. And we say hello to a little doggy. Hi, hi.